Dear students, welcome back to one more session on public international law. In the last class, we finished our discussion on Unit 3 of your syllabus, where we discussed about different kinds of state succession. Before that, in the same unit, we also discussed about the theories of state succession and even about state sovereignty, kinds of state, and also law of sea. All these concepts were discussed in detail in the previous unit, and from today onwards, we will be commencing our classes and discussions on the fourth unit of your syllabus, and in which the first chapter will be that of nationality. So, nationality is something which is most commonly being used by most of us without actually understanding its implications, its meaning, and often we get confused between nationality and citizenship. Most of us will have that confusion. So, in today's class, we will be having a discussion on the introductory parts of this topic in this chapter. So we will be, as you can see from the slide, there are few important things which will be discussed in this present session. Rest will be done in the next session. So maybe for the completion of this chapter we may need some 5 to 6 sessions. That is sufficient for us to discuss all the important topics on this subject, nationality. So let us proceed further and start our discussion with important topics on which repeatedly questions are being asked in your examination. That's the first thing. And moving further, we'll be discussing about the introduction and meaning of the concept of nationality. Thirdly, we'll be discussing about laws governing nationality, where we find the laws, well, whether we find the laws at the international level in the form of customs or in the form of lawmaking treaties, or do we find this law dealing with nationality at the municipal level, with each state having its own law. What was the position they and what is the position? These are few things will be discussed under the head laws governing nationality. The fourth important area of discussion in this chapter is variation in the rules governing nationality among states. So that itself is going to imply, or it gives an indication that law governing nationalities are going to be dealt by states through municipal laws. So in this regard, there are going to be a lot of variations in the laws governing nationality by each state. Each state is going to have its own laws, and we cannot expect uniformity among all the nations as to how the concept of nationality is being count. So what are the basis for the variation, why there are variations, and what are going to be the important factors which will be taken into consideration by states in deciding the nationality of that particular state will also be discussed in detail under the head variation in the rules governing nationality among the states. That is the fourth important thing which we will be discussing in today's session. Finally, because of these variations in the state laws or municipal laws governing nationality, what are its effects? What are its implications? Is something which is going to be dealt under the last head, that is effect of variation in state laws, or in other words, lack of uniformity among different states as to the laws governing nationality. What are the impacts, or what are the problems which the international community may face, or individuals being the subjects of international law may face? All these things will be studied under the head effects of variation in the rules governing nationality. This is the broad overview of the things which we will be discussing in today's session. Moving further, we will be first of all discussing about the important topics that gives us a bird's eye view of the whole chapter dealing with nationality. Let us just go through this and find out what are the important topics which we are going to discuss in this chapter in unit 4. So let us start with that important topics. First one is meaning of law, meaning of this term nationality, and further the law governing nationality. That is something which will be dealt in the beginning. And moving further, we will also be discussing about modes of acquisition and loss of nationality. Again, in this regard, we found repeatedly questions being asked in your university examination on these modes of acquisition and loss of nationality. There were other questions on similar lines in your unit 2, that is modes of loss and acquisition of state sovereignty. That is different. Here modes of acquisition, loss and loss of nationality, very important question. We will be discussing those things in detail in the coming session. That is the second important topic under this chapter, nationality. Moving further, the third one is distinction between nationality and citizenship. That's one of the most important area where we should concentrate and have clarity, because I'm very sure most of us we have confusions or lacks clarity as to the difference between citizenship and nationality. And most of us we may have an impression or a misconception that they are synonyms, yet one can be used in the place of the other, whereas that is not the case. Under international law we can find out a clear distinction or difference between the concept of nationality and the concept of citizenship. What are those differences, and what is the position of nationality, and what is the position of citizenship under international law? Those are also few more important areas which we will be discussing in the coming session. So that is with respect to distinction between nationality and citizenship. Further is the international importance of nationality. That's also an important question which is repeatedly asked in your exam. What it implies? If at all I say I am an Indian, what is going to be its implications at the international level? What are the areas on which my status as a national of a particular state or a nation is going to have its impact? So even that is going to be studied in detail elaborately. There are so many important areas which are going to be touched, or which are going to have their effect because of the nationality of a particular individual. Even that will be studied in detail in the coming session under the head international importance of nationality. Even that will be discussed. Further is the dual nationality and statelessness. These are the two concepts which we can term as the problems or the challenges which have been faced by the world community as well as the individuals at the international level. Both dual nationality and statelessness are problems, and many endeavors and efforts were being made at the international level to find solutions or to give remedies to these two problems, which are the results of the variations in the laws governing nationality among different states. So what are those remedies, what are the endeavors made at the international level to deal with this dual nationality and statelessness will also be studied in detail in the coming session. So this is the broad overview or the bird's eye view of this chapter dealing with nationality, which is prescribed in your syllabus of public international law under unit 4. So let us, keeping this as a background, now let us try to understand the meaning of nationality and its introduction, a concept, trying to get some conceptual clarity as to what constitutes a nationality. So first one is introduction and meaning of nationality. So nationality has been considered as a link between a person and a sovereign state. It is a relationship, it's a link between, I'm not saying that it's proper to use the term individual. The more appropriate word is person, because there can be instances where even an entity which is not an individual can still be a national. How and why we will be discussing in the future, but that is very much possible. Therefore the proper word which can be used instead of the word individual as is shown on the slides, which you can see, it can be termed as a link between a person and a state. What kind of a state it is? A sovereign state. What is the link, the kind of link which the person and the state is to which he belongs to has? That bond, that link is termed as nationality. And this bond or this link or this relationship, as we may call, is going to make the individual's rights and obligations at the international level. That's what we are discussing. So this concept of nationality, which is going to bridge the gap, or what we can say, it establishes the link between a person and a state. It is going to ensure this link, this relationship is going to ensure in giving effect, or to make it effective, or to get the fruits, or to get enforce what enforce or making giving effect to individual or private persons, not state, individuals rights and obligations at international law. Again, in the place of individual, better to use persons. So ensuring giving effect to individual rights and obligations at international law, that is going to be ensured, because at the international law, what nation, other nations are going to look at a person is as to find out as to which nation he belongs to. That is the relationship which that person has with the state to which he belongs. That is going to play a vital role at the international level, ensuring that your that person's rights and obligations are made effective and they are being protected. So that is the sense in which the word nationality is being used at the international level, and under public international law. So meaning more proper and meaning found in one of the findings of a court in British Mexican claim commission. In a dispute between British and the Mexicans, a claim commission was there, which to which the case was referred, and they, in their findings, they gave a very lucid, concrete meaning to this term nationality. What is that? Let us try to understand. A man's nationality is a continuing legal relationship between a sovereign state and its citizens. That those are the terms which have been used there. It is a man's nationality. A man's nationality is a continuing legal relationship. It is not something which is going to happen once. Once a person has been made a citizen or a national of a particular state, he continues to be a national of the state for throughout his life, if something is not changed because of some instances which will be studied in the future. So it is a continuing. The moment I am an Indian, as long as I exist, as long as I lead my life, throughout my life I will be generally considered as a national of that particular state, and I am going to have that legal relationship with my state. So nationality is a continuing legal relationship between a sovereign state and its citizens. So you may get an impression, or you may get a doubt, that on the one side you said that there is a difference between citizenship and nationality, and whenever you are talking about the meaning of nationality, you are referring it to as citizens. Of course, in a general term, all citizens are going to be all citizens are going to be nationals, but all nationals need not be citizens. Why and how? Once we go to the last part of our discussion in the next session, we will be looking into that, the distinction between citizenship and nationality. Just as of now, what we can remember is it is a legal relationship which a person has with a state. That relationship is legal relationship is called as the nationality. So what is the basis of nationality? Who are all considered as a national of a particular state? If at all you say I am an Indian and you are an Australian, someone else is a Pakistani, what makes me an Indian? What makes you a Australian? What makes the third person a Pakistani? What is the basis? The basis is your membership in a independent political community. What is this independent political community? For this you have to recollect what we discussed in unit 2. There we studied essential elements of a state. Primarily there are three essential elements of a state. First one is a definite territory, second one is a population, and the population is politically organized. That is what is the independent political community. If why I am Indian today? Because I am a member of this political community in the state of India. My membership into this political community, independent political community, is going to make me a national of the state. Similar is the case with a Pakistani. Similar is the case with an Australian. Why he is an Australian? Because he is a member of that independent political community of what we call today as Australia. That is what is going to make him an Australian. Okay, so the basis of nationality of any person is his membership of an independent political community is going to make him a national. That is the basis. And further, once a person has been considered as a national of a particular state, it is going to have its own effects. It is going to have its own implications. What are those effects and implications? The most common effects are that both the nation as well as the person, nation confers nationality and the person is going to get nationality. Both of them are going to have mutual rights and obligations. Once I am a national of India, I owe some duties. I owe duties to my state India. Similarly, I also have and I also enjoy few rights from India. So I as a national, I am going to have rights from my state and I am going to owe duties to my nation. Similarly is the case with the state. The nation to which I am belong to, the state is going to have some power, authority or rights over me. At the same time, it also has a duties towards me. So this is how the concept of nationality works. Okay, so that is the meaning of nationality as given in the British Mexican Claim Commission. That's the general meaning which we can understand about this term nationality. Moving further is the next concept. It is the laws governing nationality. Most of us, we may have a misconception, especially in this regard, as this concept of nationality is being studied under public international law. We may be imagining something in the form of a international customary principles or law-making treaty at the international level, whereby it gives those treaties or customary rules are prescribing rules which are to be followed by each state to decide who are its nationals, who are not its nationals. We may be under this conception, we may be under this presumption that it is going to happen like that or it is going to work like that, whereas that is not the truth. The truth is that, in fact, the nationality is entirely within the prerogative of municipal laws. That's an important thing which we should know. Laws governing nationality, we cannot find those laws at the international level. Rules of nationality are to be governed by municipal laws. Each state is going to have its own law. Based on that, the nationality of that state is going to be decided or it is going to be administered. That's how it works. Rules of nationality to be governed by municipal laws, and further, each state is to determine through its own constitution. Every state is going to have a constitution, and that constitution is going to lay down rules which is going to give an indication as to who can be a national of that particular state. This is how it works. Who are all entitled to be a national of a particular state is something which can be found in the respective nations' laws, and most probably those provisions are going to be included in the constitution of that state itself, as it happened with India also. We already discussed in your constitution 1 as well as in 2 the part 2 of the constitution of India, which deals with citizenship. Again, you may ask a question, sir, again you came to citizenship and you say that citizenship is different from nationality. True. Why and how we will be discussing in the future. So the constitution of each state is going to have some reference as to who is going to be its national. As it happens in India, from Article 5 to Article 10, it tells about the citizenship of India, that is Bharat, at the commencement of the Constitution of India. Whereas subsequent to that, after the commencement of the Constitution, who is going to be a citizen of India, what are the modes of acquisition of citizenship, what are the modes of losing the citizenship of India, all these things are to be regulated through a law which is going to be made by parliament. This is what has been said under Article 11, right? That is how it works. So law governing nationality, what we should remember, or what is the important principle which should take home from this discussion is that laws governing nationality are something which we can find at the municipal level. We don't have general principles or general rules or customary laws at the international level prescribing to each states that these rules to be followed as far as your nationality is concerned. No, each state will have its own law, and each state is going to treat it as a sovereign prerogative. I am a sovereign state. That being the case, I am the person who is to decide who are going to be my national and who are not going to be my national. Each state is going to have a final say in deciding who are its nationals. And one more thing which you should remember is that under the international law, there is no duty on the part of any state to recognize any person as its national. It is entirely left to the discretion or the pleasure of the state to decide as to who are going to be the nationals and who are not going to be its nationals. That is how it works. So these are few important things which we are supposed to know as far as laws governing nationality. Moving further is variation in the rules governing nationality among states. That is something quite obvious, something which is definitely going to be the case, because as we know, there are no general rules, no general principles, no guidelines to any state under the international law at the international level saying that you have to follow these guidelines, you have to follow these rules in deciding who are going to be your national. Nothing is said. Each state is going to have its own law. It is entirely going to be governed by municipal laws of each state. Once that being the case, definitely you cannot expect each state to have a same rule or identical laws governing nationality. There are bound to be differences. There are differences among the nations with respect to their states, their laws governing nationality. But in spite of this, there are two important factors which will be taken into consideration by different states at in different up to some different degrees. The degrees of their importance which is going to be given to these two factors is going to change, but these two factors are going to definitely play an important role in every state's national law or the municipal law in deciding who are going to be its nationals. What are those two concepts? The two concepts are, they are called as jus soli and jus sanguinis. Jus sanguinis is the first concept, second one is jus soli. Please note them. The term JUS, just sanguinis, 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 and second one is just soli. What is this just sanguinis? Just sanguinis represents it the nationality of the parents at the time of birth of a child. When a child is born, what is the nationality of its parents? That is an important factor which will be taken into consideration by most of the states to decide as to whether that particular child has has got the nationality of that state or not. If at all the states, the child which has taken birth, its parents are that state's nationals, then definitely in most of the cases the states may confer nationality even to the child. That's the first factor, just sanguinis. Second one is just soli. What is this just soli? Just soli is a concept which gives more importance or which is going to indicate the territory where the child has born. That is also an important factor. So if at all a child has born in Bangladesh to the parents of India, parents are nationals of India, whereas the child has taken birth in Bangladesh for different reasons. The mother has gone to Bangladesh and delivery happened there, and the child was born in Bangladesh. Now the question is whether the child is going to get Indian nationality or not. The factors to be taken into consideration, right? Similarly, just solely that's just solely the person, the child has born in some other state and its parents are of a different state. Then to which state the child belongs to In this regard, what is the general rule? In fact, there is no general rule. International law allows each state to frame its own rules and regulations to decide as to who are going to be nationals. But every state, in its laws dealing with nationality, they give different degrees of importance to these two concepts, jus sanguinis and jus soli. Let us find out what are those practices. In this, as far as these practices in deciding the nationality of a person by origin, originally how a person is going to acquire nationality by birth is going to be, the states can be grouped under four heads based on their differences in the practices in deciding as to whether a child has got a nationality of that nation or not. Let us try to find out what they are. So first, basis of original acquisition of nationality, four groups of states can be made which are having different rules of practices in conferring nationality. First group is those states where they solely give nationality by jus sanguinis. Only factor which will be taken into consideration by those states is the parent's nationality. If at all both the parents are nationals of that particular state, the child, irrespective of the place of birth of the child, as I said, Indian parents, the parents are Indians and the child was born in Bangladesh. If the state belongs to the first group, then if India is in the first group, then definitely the child would have got the nationality of India. That is solely by jus sanguinis. That is one group of states. Another group of state, they give equal importance to both jus sanguinis as well as to jus soli. They will look into the parent's nationality as well as the territory where the child has taken birth. Equal importance will be given to both these factors. And what is exactly the rules? It depends on each state is going to have its own rules and regulations, it's going to have its own laws. Based on that, they will decide whether a child is going to get nationality or not. But in those laws, they will give equal importance to both jus sanguinis as well as to jus soli, both nationality of their parents as well as the territory where the child has taken birth. They will be taken into consideration by the states in deciding whether the child is going to get nationality of that state or not. Moving further, third group of states, they give primary importance to jus sanguinis. That means they will give more stress, or they will give more importance to what we call the nationality of the parents, and but at the same time they won't totally ignore the place of birth or the territory where the child has taken birth. Even that will be taken into consideration, but more importance is going to be given to the, what we say, the nationality of its parents. So that is the third group of nations. Fourth group of nations, they are quite opposite to the third group. So there they will be giving primary importance, or principally they will be taking into consideration the jus soli, that is whether the child has born within our territory or not. That will be given more importance. Along with that, even they may take into consideration in special cases that even though the nationality of the parents may also be taken into consideration, but not the only basis, but and not also the primary factor. So in this way, we find differences in the rules governing, or differences in the laws governing the basis of originally acquiring nationality of different states. So this is what we find at the international level. They have different practices. So this is the topic. So Sanjang, we already discussed in detail the meaning of jus sanguinis and the meaning of Sanjoli, and further the implications of the same principle. Third category of group of states where they give primary importance to jus sanguinis and little importance to jus soli. The fourth group is they will be principally giving importance to the concept of jus soli and secondary importance to the parents nationality, jus sanguinis. So this is with respect to variations in the rules governing nationality among states. Because of these variations, or what we can call as lack of uniformity among the state laws governing nationality, it led to creation of many problems. What are those problems which are faced by people or international community as such as a whole, the important problems which are going to be faced by them because of lack of uniformity are problem of multiple nationality. Of course, we'll be specifically studying this under the head dual nationality. That's an important problem which is being created due to lack of uniformity among different states with respect to law governing nationality. So, multiple nationality means a single person may have nationality of more than one nation or one state. Confusions are going to be created as to really to which state he belongs to. Those confusions are going to have their repercussions on many aspects of life. So we will be looking into that in greater details in the last session of this chapter, the problems of lack of uniformity in the rules of international law governing nationality, problems of multiple nationality. Second one is statelessness. Because of this variation in the rules, at times a child may neither get the nationality of the territory where the child has taken birth, nor the child may get the nationality of their parents because of differences in the rules. Even that is also a very big problem, statelessness. Further comes the disputed nationality of married women. A woman, if she marries a person whose nationality is different from her own nationality, what is going to happen to her nationality? Will she retain her original nationality or will she acquire the nationality of her husband? How it works in this regard, there are a lot of confusions, and of course at the international level many efforts are made to ensure that women are and women's interests are protected. Again, we will be discussing those aspects in detail in the last session of this chapter. So that's with respect to the effects of lack of uniformity among different states with respect to law governing nationality. So these are the important uh, things which we discussed in this present session about the concept of nationality in the lecture 1. So what we discussed about important topics on which repeatedly questions are being asked in your examinations. In the course of doing so, we also got a bird's eye view of this chapter nationality, and further we discussed about the meaning and conceptual background of this concept, this nationality. Further we also discussed about the meaning of nationality as said by the Mexican British Mexican Claim Commission. So there they have given a definition meaning to this term nationality. That is what we discussed. Further, laws governing nationality, whether it is international laws or whether the municipal laws are going to govern nationality, we discussed them in detail. Further, we also discussed about variations in the rules governing nationality, especially with respect to the basis for original acquisition of nationality. We have different rules in the form of jus sanguinis and jus soli. Even that we discussed. Finally, we also had a discussion on effects of variation in rules in the form of important what we say difficult problems which are faced by the international community as well as we persons individually, in the form of statelessness, in the form of multiple personality, or to be more appropriate dual personality, and also the status of a married woman, as to which nation she belongs to and what is her nationality. Many problems were faced by us at the international level. This is what we discussed in this session. So we'll stop at this. In the next session, we will be discussing about modes of acquisition and loss of nationality, and distinction between nationality and citizenship, and finally international importance of nationality. These are few important things which we'll be discussing in detail in the coming session. With this, I am concluding this lecture, and we'll meet all of you in the next class. Okay, thanks to one and all.